Hello there, Fright fans. This is Mike C. from iconsofright.com. Today we're in the home of director Mike Mendez, who you might remember from The Killers, The Convent, and the recently released Gravedancers from the After Dark Horror Fest. And Mike's going to give us a tour of his house. It is a place where filmmaking and fandom collide. So, Mike, take us through your horror toy collection.
All right, welcome to Geek Central, as I like to call it, my geek headquarters. Yes, this is my Jason Voorhees collection. As a kid, it was my biggest dream to have a Jason Voorhees action figure, and I think that came true in spades. To me, when I was 9, Friday the 13th Part 2 was cinema. That was just great fucking filmmaking. When I was 9, I remember similar things that were out at the time, like Gandhi bored the crap out of me, but Friday the 13th Part 2, that's how movies are made. There we go. So we move along down our Modern Maniacs thing. This is my Freddy/Freddy versus Jason section. Again, trying to get every Elm Street figure that exists.
I used to have a Freddy face that you could squeeze that shot water too. That was like
I love that you purchased Hulk hands.
Wow. Squeezing Freddy.
That I had a very film savvy family, at least my dad and my brother. My dad, was an immigrant from El Salvador. He sold restaurant equipment, but the reason he wanted to come to the United States was he wanted to be a film actor. That was his first motivation. Never did anything about that or whatever. And we had a Mexican restaurant on Hollywood Boulevard, so we were kind of exposed to, Hollywood through the most outsider way you could be. It's not like any of us were in the industry or anything like that, but we, grew up. I grew up outside of the Walk of Fame. I'd go to the Chinese theater, every week and stuff like that. So film loving was certainly, an integral part of my roots, and really, it's what we did. I mean, we weren't a sports family. We weren't, a family who was really heavily into, lots of functions. We went to the movies. And from that started my brother on a path that he wanted to be a filmmaker. I think Steven Spielberg probably really is what kind of cemented that for him. And it became his dream that he wanted to go to UCLA Film School and stuff like that. Now, because that was his dream, that never really, it didn't really feel like it was my dream. I felt like, I'd be copying him, so got very interested in the makeup effects side of it. I think it's also partially my love for toys and everything, was that I was really interested in sculpture. Not a good sculptor myself, but I have a tremendous appreciation of it. And so for the longest time, I think I was interested in two things. I think I was interested in being a writer, but then slowly, probably also because of my love of Fangoria magazine and Gorezone and things of that nature, slowly it turned to wanting to become an effects artist, and suddenly my heroes became Rob Bottin and Kevin Yeager and Rick Baker, were kind of the people who I really was like, wow. And then these are some of my other kids. It's Little Dr. Tongue and Little Bub.
Did the Silver Shamrock Man on the back of them?
Hold on, let me grab this and show off a little.
That's amazing.
But you want to scratch that off?
No, you don't want to do that. It'll do terrible things to your face.
Killers is a real hard film to make, because I was 22, so pretty much just dropped out of college at that point. I'm sure lots of people do that and make their film just with credit cards, but to our surprise, I mean, it got into Sundance. A huge jump for me. When we made my second film, The Convent, I went to a festival in Germany, and it was weird. They thought I was Darren Aronofsky or something. They thought I was like a real filmmaker from the U.S. And I didn't have the heart to tell them, like, no, I'm really nobody in my in my home state or my country. But there, they thought I was like an important filmmaker or something. So I thank the Germans for their early support of the Mendez film. This is my monkey. I like my monkey. At the time, like I told you, like all these doors opened up for me, right? I'm like this 23-year-old kid, like in Hollywood, taking all these big meetings for like big projects, like Species 2 or Idle Hands or things like that. At the time, where they were like, $10 million movies and stuff. and I couldn't find anything that I really liked. That I really felt passionate about. You know, all of it was kind of like, it was studio stuff, it was all crap. I also like comic books quite a bit, so this is, again, a very small percentage of my comic book collection. I try to get every Superman figure that exists, as well as every Batman figure. Well, maybe not everyone. There's a lot of them that are kind of like Aqua Batman and Laser Light Batman and crap like that. But all the cool ones, all the Frank Millers, Alex Ross, and Jim Lee ones, all that kind of thing. And so the company that released Killers said, well, we have to do this other movie, and one of the secretaries here actually has a treatment, and it was called The Convent. And they're like, well, what's it about? It's like, well, it was about a group of kids that like break into a convent, and then like bad stuff happens. And I was like, well, it's not that real original or exciting, but can we put some demonic nuns in it? And they're like, yeah, sure. Like, can we blow them away and make them explode? And then they're like, yeah, sure. And honestly, the reason I did it was just because they said you could do whatever you wanted.
From Gravedancers.
Yeah, that's from Gravedancers. And this is also something that KMB did for us for a special we did called Masters of Horror before the actual series came and took our title. And this is also from the Haunted Mansion. A very talented guy named Chuck Jarman makes those. Gravedancers was a blatant attempt on my part to make something just mainstream, or more mainstream, something that I still like, something that I still can get into, but much more commercial and much more accessible than anything I'd ever done, because I kind of just like to make my weird little films. What I liked about this was that it was very much an homage to Poltergeist, and it was very much an homage to the Haunted Mansion, and I could inject my visual style in there, and it got really crazy at the end, and there was I don't know, I kind of like that it wasn't just one thing, it wasn't just a creepy bump in the night movie, and it wasn't just a crazy killer ghost movie. It was kind of this arc, this evolution that started at one place and ended at another place. Partially it's a reaction. I probably shouldn't do this, was probably a reaction to all criticisms that I got for The Convent, because even though some people love The Convent, lots of people hate it, thinking like, oh, it's so stupid, that's not scary. And so like, alright, fine, I'll make a fucking scary one next time. No, I love practical stuff and I'd like to do it, but I had this idea for how I wanted the ending to be, and if I could have done it in a practical way, or mostly practical way, I would have. And even I tried to do it, because even the big head, as much as I always get accused of making a big CGI head, is not CG. I mean, that's a big puppet. That's a giant puppet, and we did it just like Star Wars, and had it in front of a green screen, and moved the camera past it, and had a fan on so the wind would blow its hair back, and and whatnot, and we kind of really did it old school, but everything around it, it has this ethereal glow. All the destruction around it is all CG, so everyone just thinks it's a big CG thing. And sometimes when I'm broke as shit and doing some job that I'd rather not be doing, like editing or something like that, I wonder, like, wow, maybe I should have taken those big $10 million movies when they offered them to me. But I don't know, there's something about kind of pride in your work and just kind of doing what you believe in, and that's cool, and I think that's kind of cooler to me than just cashing in and directing some studio piece of shit, I
want to thank Mike for letting us stop by. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Hope you guys got to know Mike a little bit now.
Mike, pleasure.
Check out his films, and see ya
next time.
See you next time.
All right.